and with that will come some guilt, especially if you grew up in a home where there was a lot of shame and guilt. And what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, okay, when shame and guilt come up, be like, okay, do I genuinely believe I'm doing something wrong, or am I worried about how the other person feels? So take risk. You're gonna mess up, and that's okay. You want to mess up in order to learn, hey, this had this kind of consequence and I'm either okay with it or I'm not okay with it, and I want to make amends. Hey guys, welcome back, and today we're going to talk about how to heal from parentification. So a few years ago I did a video on signs that you've been parentified, and I will leave it right here, and a lot of people had commented and said, like, how do you heal from this? How do you heal from this? So I thought I'd make a more in-depth video about how to heal. So if you're unsure what parentification is, definitely go watch that video. It's more in-depth. But basically what parentification is when you grew up in a home and your parents gave you responsibilities that were well above your capabilities, or should have been your things you shouldn't have been responsible about. Like, for instance, your siblings, or maybe their emotions or bills, you know, things that are supposed to be the adult parents' responsibilities, they made them yours. And this isn't the same thing as like having chores and cleaning around the house and maybe babysitting your siblings. It's much more extreme than that. It's more so you like are the sole responsibility, or you have the sole responsibility of these things, or like you would get punished or guilted or shamed, or they wouldn't get done, like something, there would be some sort of negative consequence. It was just like, it was your responsibility. You had to either have a job or take care of these things, or they wouldn't get done. And this happens in environments with in low income environments, or with people that are not capable of being an adult and being parents, and it happens in narcissistic homes, it happens in abusive homes, it happens in homes with parents that never grow up. So the first thing you want to do when you notice that you have signs of parentification, or you just can relate in any type of way, is you need to become aware of the things that happen in your childhood and where you were parentified. You know, the responsibilities that you were given in childhood, and what was not okay or correct. You also want to become aware of when you feel overly responsible for things now as an adult, because this carries on into even when you're an adult. You will feel like you need to be responsible for other things, like responsible for things in your relationship. Maybe you feel like you have to carry your relationship on your back, or maybe you feel like you always take responsibility for when things go wrong and it's not always your fault. Or maybe you feel like you always have to be responsible for paying for things, or just you'll notice that you feel responsible for things that are unfair and not equal, and you carry these burdens with you. So you want to become aware of these things, and you can do that by journaling, jotting down, you know, looking up even what a healthy relationship is supposed to be like as a child and a parent. You know, what is equal relationships in general. Generally, what you will come across is that the parent is supposed to be the one that takes care of all of the bills. You should not be responsible for any bills as a child. They should be the one that's taking care of their own children. Occasional babysitting, like, that's not a big deal, but like day to day, you're, you know, always watching your brothers and sisters, or you were always feeding them, or, you know, you were the sole one. Like, that wasn't okay. That should have solely been your parents' responsibilities, and you should have been focusing on your studies, focusing on being a kid, focus on having fun, you know, even having your own job, that it's not where your parents take your money. Like, when you're like 16, it's okay for you to have a job and pay for your own stuff, but it shouldn't have been that you were part of the income in your household. And it's definitely not okay for if you were someone where you had to be the therapist for your parent, or you had to feel like you were your parent's partner. That's never okay. You shouldn't be a listening ear for your parent. Your parent is supposed to be the one that's a listening ear, and supposed to be the one that is the one that's guiding you. You shouldn't be the one that's guiding your parent, or telling them what to do, or giving them advice, or being there for them. and you shouldn't be the one that's trying to help them cope through their emotions. That's their job to you. So the roles were reversed, and understand what you most likely were doing in childhood was what your parents should have been doing for you. The next thing that's really important is you need to grieve. It's so important. Don't dismiss, don't belittle, don't think about how it could have been so much worse. Grieve for yourself and your inner child not getting to experience the childhood you should have experienced. What you dealt with was 100% unfair. You should not have been a parent at a young age. You should have been able to get to be a kid and have fun and not have responsibilities or worries or stress, and been able to feel safe. You don't feel safe if you're the one who has to take all responsibility of things. So it's so important for you to feel sad for yourself, and there's no time limit. Just feel sad, grieve, mourn, be angry. It was unfair what happened to you. Go through all the emotions, and they'll come up again and again, and just allow it and give it space. And if you notice you're getting too caught up in it, it's okay to be like, okay, I've had my time of being in this space, and let me put it here in this room. Like, you know, you can have a little room in your mind. It's going to be here, and I can take it out and grave over it, but for now I need to kind of move on with my day. But definitely give yourself space, something that you've never been given as a child, and genuinely feel bad for yourself. It's okay to feel bad for yourself. It's not wrong. Don't feel shame. It's okay. You were wronged, and you gotta feel that. It's so important to work those emotions. The more you suppress, or you pretend it didn't happen, or you don't allow those emotions to come out, the more you're going to have unhealthy coping mechanisms to deal with it, and it's going to come out in other unhealthy ways. Like, you're going to have addictions, or you're going to avoid, or you'll be overly angry, or, you know, you'll throw yourself into work, or throw yourself into constantly being social, not wanting to be alone. Like, you gotta sit with these emotions and be with that, and be there for that little you, that inner child. Give your inner child some space for that. Hold space for them. Now, that is the awareness and the going through the emotions of all of it. And there's another aspect of eventually you'll come to an accept that, you know, you can understand your parent and be empathetic, but you don't make excuses. It still wasn't okay, and you'll eventually come to some sort of acceptance that that's the way things were, and it hurt and it sucked, but you can't do anything about it back then. You can only move forward and do things about it now. So now what you can do about it is your behaviors and your beliefs have to change. So now it's being able to identify areas in your life that you take on too much responsibility, because like I had mentioned before, you carry these things with you, and we got to figure out, you know, what are you carrying with you that's unhealthy in your adult life. And one thing you'll notice is that if you may feel like you need to be an overachiever, you may feel like you seek validation, outside validation a lot. You may notice that you try to take on too much in your life, and so that's where you need to notice your problem areas, and you have to set boundaries. You have to learn healthy boundaries, and you have to set boundaries. So let's say you're someone who seeks too much validation. That is when you need to now learn how to give validation to yourself. So if you notice that you're seeking too much of outside support, or too much of seeking what other people think, or seeking too much of other people's advice, or maybe you're someone where you are trying to give too much advice because you're used to being your parent's therapist. It could go either way. If you're someone where you didn't feel like you had guidance, you may seek guidance, or you may do the opposite where you don't seek anyone's guidance, and you solely rely on yourself. You have to recognize that, and you have to do the opposite. So basically, if you seek too much validation and guidance from other people, you got to start to lean more on yourself. And if you notice you seek too much reliance on yourself and you have an ego about it, you now need to humble yourself and seek other people's, you know, opinions and what they have to say, because there needs to be a healthy balance. You will not succeed in life if you focus too much on other people and what they say, or if you focus too much on yourself. You need a good team around you to be able to succeed in life, and success is defined differently by everybody, by the individual person. So really start to, you kind of have to start to learn how to do the opposite of what you know. So identify the problem areas and kind of write them in a list and see, okay, what do you need to work on? Maybe you notice, like I mentioned earlier, you take on too much responsibility. Start to do less responsibility. Be less harsh on yourself. Start to give yourself some grace and some compassion, and be more gentle on yourself. And when you start to do this, something will come up. When we are retraining our brain, we will start to have more negative thoughts or feel worse about ourselves, and we may think, oh, we have to go back to what we're doing. You may get more anxiety or feel more guilt, or it's because our brains are wired to feel comfortable. And so when you do things that are uncomfortable, your brain's gonna go ham on being like, no, go back, because you're doing something that's out of the norm. So this means that it's whatever you're doing is working, and you have to soothe yourself and say, hey, listen, I know I'm uncomfortable right now. I know your old mechanisms have protected me, but I got it from here. I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. We're safe. We're okay. And you want to do that over and over until your new neurons are hardwired into your brain, because what wires together fires together. It's what fires together wires together. So the more you do this, you're creating new neurons, and you're creating new neural pathways in your brain, and you're forming new beliefs. So you want to keep doing this over and over, and with that will come some guilt, especially if you grew up in a home where there was a lot of shame and guilt. And what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, okay, when shame and guilt come up, be like, okay, do I genuinely believe I'm doing something wrong, or am I worried about how the other person feels? And most of the time you'll notice you don't genuinely believe it's wrong. You're worried about how it will affect the other person. And that's when you say, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. You have to take risks and do things wrong, because there also is that fear of failure, in order to learn how to have healthy boundaries, how to have healthy relationships, and what works for you and what works in your circle as well. So take risks. You're gonna mess up, and that's okay. You want to mess up in order to learn, hey, this had this kind of consequence, and I'm either okay with it or I'm not okay with it. I want to make amends, and I want to make better, and I want to do better. And the last thing is, give your inner child what you needed. So if you didn't get any playtime, give yourself playtime. Allow yourself to do silly, fun things. A lot of times when we're parentified, we get into a serious role. Allow yourself to have fun. Go fly a kite. Go play with Legos. Buy yourself a Lego kit. Like, go buy a pretend kitchen and play pretend. Like, do all things. And it may seem silly, but doing these activities are so healing for the inner child, and allowing you to explore and do things that you didn't feel like you were allowed to do. You want to use your imagination. You'll notice when you do what feels like these silly things, it helps you in other areas of your life. It helps you to be more creative. It helps you to let loose. It helps you to be more free and open, and less serious in your general life. So go ahead and try and do something. Go paint. Don't be a perfectionist. Go do something silly, and you'll notice that your inner child will feel more free, and you will feel a difference in your overall life. It's so important to use self-soothing and self-parenting language on top of giving your inner child things that it needed, because that's another thing that you really needed, was that self-soothing and that loving language, things that you wish you heard, or things that you hear in movies, or things that you maybe tell other people. You want to tell yourself those things. So those are the main things. You want to be aware, you need to grieve, you need to learn healthy boundaries and apply them and enforce them. And I will leave a video right here about how to enforce boundaries, because it can be difficult when you're just learning. You need to deal with the guilt and the shame or any negative emotions that come up, and you need to go have fun and give your inner child things that you always wanted or needed, especially the love. It's so important to give yourself self-parenting language again, and being gentle and compassionate with yourself and loving on yourself. So what do you guys think? Leave it all in the comments below, and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share with someone that you think may need it. Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye guys. I hope that wasn't too fast. I feel like I was talking like micro speed. I don't even know if that's a thing. I don't even know, bro. I don't know. You're going to